Well, good morning, everybody. It is Monday, the 18th of April, 2022. This is the Smart Networker, and I'm Dave Rolfe, and welcome to our call today. Um, we just had Easter weekend, and so for some in Canada, I think you still have a holiday today. Other parts of the world have a holiday today. The United States is, business oriented, so they don't have too many holidays. And so I was preparing for this call yesterday. I decided to goof off, and I spent my time in the garden planting flowers, and a very therapeutic process of getting out there and playing around with dirt and plants and aesthetics. It was a lot of fun. So I didn't prepare for this call other than think about ideas and this morning I was talking to my wife, said, I'm kind of stumped today. I don't really have anything planned that I'm going to talk about. She said, well, why don't you talk about inflation? Is and I said, wow. And she gave me some ideas of this, and I started to look at this and said, brilliant. Thank you very much. And I went to the website or the internet, and I found an article, and I started to create a PowerPoint. But I thought that for a moment we'd do two things today. One is an open forum of anything you want to talk about. Two, I will talk about inflation and what we need to do right now to handle it for ourselves and for those that we can affect through effective communication. Um, but in essence, if we look at the definition or what basically inflation does, and I've got this PowerPoint that I'll read from. I won't put it up there, but it was very interesting. So high inflation has the ability to topple governments, ruin nations, and reduce economic growth. It discourages savings and reduces the overall productivity in the country. In its creepiest form, inflation can reduce the purchasing power of people. So this means that pensions and savings of people can now buy less. And of course, what you said, Lynn, was gas prices doubled. I mean, we paid close to $8 a gallon or $9 a gallon out in the desert when we were traveling. So yes, it was very, very high. And as a result of the solution that the government has to offer, it is to reduce the money supply. And when you reduce the money supply, you decrease the economic power of business and create a higher unemployment. And with a higher unemployment, you then have a very interesting situation for us because it's that higher unemployment that opens the door for people to take a look at what we have to offer as a solution. And so the idea of where we need to, we've been talking about for the last several Mondays and months actually that right now we need to recruit, and we need to recruit as a business, we need to recruit as a group, and we need to, if we want to grow and expand, that's what we need to do. And the idea is really quite simple. If you look at what you can do, I think I'm not sure quite what the average, but I think the average distributor in Nikan has 6 customers. So if that's the formula that the average distributor has 6 customers, there are people that aren't obviously in our mix that aren't building the business. They aren't selling new customers. So that's the average. It's just kind of like the average of income, the average of whatever. It's kind of I don't know. It's a mixed number because it really doesn't deal with the accuracy of who's doing or who's not doing. Some people have a couple of hundred customers. So that then shows you the top end of what we do. But from my understanding, going back to the very beginning of time in network marketing, each person had a group around them of anywhere from 100 to 200 people. And so the advantage of this business, oh, we got somebody's mute, mute, mute. Thank you very much. I'm going to mute you. I'm going to mute all. There we go. Mute all current and new participants. Yes. Okay, good. You can still hear me? Give me a thumbs up. Yeah. Okay, good. So from that aspect of building the business, each distributor that came in brought in 200 new potential buyers. And so if we compared that to you have that to begin with, but typically the way we do business is you're going to go after your warm market first. You're going to try and sell product and get people involved that you know as quickly as possible. And then you're going to run out of your friends, and your customers are going to, you're going to have your customer base, and you can only sell so many waterfalls to the same person or so many mattresses to the same person, whatever the case may be. So you need to generate new clientele. Well, the fastest way to generate new clientele was in developing a network. And the beauty of the network, as we've seen in some of the other lessons that have been put out, is the growth is exponential. So you have the ability to earn based on how the business grows. And if you build it and it grows to those levels, then the numbers are truly astronomical in the sense of what can happen. Now, all of this depends on catalysts. Now, when I started in 1990, we were coming out of recession. Now, what do I? So there had been a recession, and all of a sudden things started to stabilize out, and then there was a growth period that took place. And we had inflation. We've seen inflation in our past, and now we have inflation again, and we've got a really goofy economic situation worldwide that we need to, understand so that we can take advantage of, because the whole success of our business is what and how you communicate and the information that you pass on to other people. Now, I was doing a study on another thing over the weekend, and it said that, how do you, I can see if I can get the quote right. It's the investigation to prove if something works is you've got to try and disprove it doesn't work. So in a true investigative sense, if you're working on an idea, the best way to prove that it works is to try and prove that it doesn't work. I thought about, whoa, what a powerful statement that is. Because if we look at how we build this business is built by communicating to other people and finding out what they need or want, and then presenting a solution to the problems, desires, situations, or circumstances that you found. Now, I looked at that statement and I said, okay, this is what I'm teaching. Can I disprove this? Is there any way that this doesn't work? So I looked at that and I said, well, no, because if I look at anybody that's got involved with this business, how or why did they come into this business? They came in because they had a situation that they were trying to deal with, whether it was an owie, or a pain or a discomfort or a physical challenge, or whether it was a mental challenge or a spiritual challenge or the feeling or a sensation or something. They wanted something. And they thought that by being involved with this, they could get that something, whatever it was. And if I go down this list of the people that are on here today, everybody's probably got a different answer as to what caused them to really get into this business. There's going to be some similarities, but the bottom line is the person that got you involved found out something or said something or presented something or put something in front of you that caused you to look at it and then make a decision to get involved. Okay. Whether it was a problem or a desire or a circumstance. So for me, I'd had experience in this industry since 1975, so I understood what the industry was. I understood the concept of it, and I understood the potential. I had tried and never made it work, so I thought it was hooey-fooey at that time. And then a company comes along like Nikken, and it has a new idea, a new mousetrap, so to speak. But that wasn't of interest to me at the beginning because I have no need for it. So that then says that, okay, what's needed is important. So if you're talking to somebody about something they don't need, you're not going to get very far. If you're talking to something about something they do need, you're going to create interest. And if you can create interest, people will look. I mean, how do you react or respond or participate when there's something of interest for you? Well, I'll give you an example of this. Last week, I don't know how I got this, an email about artificial intelligence and voiceovers. And I thought, well, that's an interesting topic. What's this all about? And so I opened up the email and I got a video and it started to play and it invited me to a seminar on artificial intelligence about how to, position your web page, how to position your videos in the search engines at the top. And I thought, well, that, I hadn't really thought about doing that, but that might be, I'm hearing a lot of stuff about SEO, and I'm hearing a lot of stuff, search engine optimization, and a lot of stuff about social media and building your business that way, et cetera, et cetera. So that piqued my interest. I want you to understand that. That piqued my interest. Well, what happened? What followed after that was then I jumped in and participated in this, and the first part of the program was a voiceover artificial intelligence and translation program. So then I saw a way that I can now deliver my material in Spanish and French. So I was excited about that because that's something I wanted to do. I want you to follow what's happening here to me and where this can go for you moving forward. So I jumped in with both feet. Why? Because I saw a potential. I wanted to provide this information. This was of interest to me, and I perceived, because of what's happened before, the benefits that I wanted to get as a result of doing what I'm doing. Okay, so now we've got this situation going on in our country where we've got this thing called inflation. What do you think most people are doing right now as a result of that problem? Well, they're probably, stamping their feet, they're complaining, they're negative about what's going on, they're looking at the problem, and they're not looking at the solution because they don't know what the solution is, for the most part. They're being, again, because of inflation, people are going to lose jobs. Again, we've seen this. The government's going to control the economy. It has to, in order so we don't have runaway inflation. So what this is doing is setting up the opportunity to provide the solution to inflation. And the solution to inflation is production. And again, from the standpoint of what we communicate, and here's really the key to this. It's interest, benefits, action. So when I was looking at the artificial intelligence and the translator and that ability to have voiceover, man, I jumped on the program. I bought everything this company had because I was intrigued by it and I wanted the benefit. And I actually produced the first Spanish version of the Take a Look series. And I sent it out to a Spanish person, and I sent it out to Ruben, and they looked at it, and, so far so good. So now I have a project, which is to translate everything that I've produced, which is huge, into both Spanish and French, because only 20% of the world's population speaks English. Only 20%. So I figured, well, we've got a huge audience in Europe. We have a huge audience in Latin America. And again, I'm a business guy. So I'm thinking big. I'm thinking of potential. I'm thinking of the positives to solve the issues at hand. Now, so again, let's look at where the majority of the public are sitting right now. They're sitting in a war. They're sitting in a large inflation. They're sitting with huge gas prices. They're having to cut back their expenditures, and they're stuck in a problem. And this is where you can be such an asset to those people by being able to provide them with a solution. Now, is everybody going to jump on your solution? No, absolutely not. But the door will open to enough people will join you that you can, fulfill what it is you want and increase your organization, increase your volume, increase your income, which for the most of you is part of the game. But so what we have to do here is use this guy and think in terms of, okay, how do we solve the problem, or versus how do we be the problem? And that was the purpose of that topic, was simply, okay, we do some investigation. Find out what's going on in your economy, in your area, in your society, and then utilize that data to create the story to then go out and present that to other people. Because how does the business work? Well, the business works when people see and identify a potential solution to their situation. That's it. And of course, because everybody's different, there's so many different solutions. There are so many different ways to go here. I know from the people that I'm talking to on this call and have talked to for a long time, your individual needs, wants, desires, and specifics. So, and they're not all the same. And that's the wonderful thing about this style and this business, is that we can attract many people. Now, there's 129 million households in the United States. We've got a water industry that's worth $100 billion from just Nikon products, $100 billion. We've got an economy that's now being stressed, and people are cutting back and not expending it. So what do they need? Well, probably the most common denominator of what they need today is income, another source of viability. And that's where, again, you come in. So if I go back to where we were when I started, what I saw at that time is people needed incomes. So I started to talk in that direction. Now, at first, I wasn't 100% savvy about doing this. At first, I didn't have any stories. I didn't have any information. I had no track record. I had no track record as far as success with this business, or with Nikon for that matter. In my first or second month, I think my first month I made $400, and so I had to build that confidence. But here was what I did realize, and this is so crucial to you and your future. It's no longer about you. It's about them. It's about the people you talk to. Beauty's in the eye of the beholder. So it's what does that person see becomes the issue of what you should be talking about. So in other words, if you've got, let's just take an example, you got a family, and they got 2 kids, and they're barely making it now, and all of a sudden they got to cut back, and they can't afford a babysitter or whatever the case may be. So what are they thinking about? What's going on in their minds at that point in time that you could resolve or provide a workable solution with? And then again, if you understand how this business is built and how it works, the key to that individual is their willingness to bring people to the picnic. Now, I'm going to tell this story again because it's very, very important, but I had a guy, his name was Jim Ridley, and Jim Ridley called the company because he'd heard about the magnetic technology, and he was given, I think, 2 or 3 names of distributors that could service him. I was the only guy that called him. So I called Jim. We had a great conversation. And so he bought some product based on that. And we talked about the business and the opportunity and so on and so forth. And so he introduced it to a good friend of his his name was Gordon Williams. Now, Gordon Williams was at that time in his 60s. And he was, basically a retired sales guy, but still looking for an opportunity, still wanting to do something. And he jumped on board, and he went nuts with this thing. Well, why did he do that? Well, he went nuts with it because he saw for him a solution. For him, it was a way, a method. Now, he had been used to doing this type of activity, which is talking to people and getting them to get the products that he represented. So that was no different, but he had never done the network marketing thing. Well, then he turns it on to a good friend of his, Russell. And then Russell turns it on to his girlfriend, Rita. And Rita turns it on to her girlfriend, Julie Tara. 5th level. 5th level. We'll say that again. 5th level. Now, that's 5 levels below me. 5th level. I want you to, I'm going to say this a gazillion times because this is the key to success in this business, is when you bring in somebody, your job is to help build it deep. It's not to bring in somebody and hope that they make it. It's not to get somebody involved and then sit back and think you landed on easy street. It's for it's just like it's your job, it's your business. This is your empire. This is your, what you do create. So structure, understanding the structure is really important. Now, the amount of benefit I got and now Julie was on my 5th level, so most of her production was way below my ability to get paid for most of my career. And but that wasn't the point, because what she did was she got the people above her motivated, and they went nuts too. And that's what's really important to understand is it's kind of like what makes things work, and how do they work together, and so on and so forth. So what we've got here is we've got a situation that's very favorable to what we do. And that's an economy where people are looking, wanting to do something, but they just don't know what to do. And again, so you have the opportunity here to expose a number of different solutions, and that's the key to you being the entrepreneur, if you want to call that, or the your business, because the building of the distributorship is your business. The selling of the product is Nikon's business. So you want to focus on your business. And your business is to develop an organization and a team. And in order to develop an organization and a team, you have to find people that see this as their solution. And everybody that I know from day one in this business that made it, that made a lot of money, that built huge organizations, use Nikon as a solution to their situation in life. Bottom line. No questions. No, that's it. That's how that happened. So what did those people see? Well, again, this is really, really important, because what you have here, and it's kind of like, we talk about the business in the box kind of a concept. What we have here is this manufacturer and the supplier of products and this administrator will do most of your work. And again, I had a talk with somebody about entrepreneurial. Being an entrepreneur is a little different than being a Nikken distributor, because being an entrepreneur means you're taking on all the risk. You're taking on all the responsibility. You're funding it, you're financing it, you're manufacturing it, you're creating it, you're providing jobs for employees. That's entrepreneurial. I mean, Elon Musk is an entrepreneur. Bill Gates was an entrepreneur. Now, from the standpoint of who we are, when you build your business, you become basically a small business builder, and then you grow that into a large business builder. And then you can get entrepreneurial by taking on projects where you're it, from top to bottom. So what we have to look at here in this respect is, how does this work, and how do we make this go, and then how do we provide the information that becomes important to other people? And of course, that was the key to my success, was to figure out what other people wanted and then create a solution and then stick that solution in front of them. And if I did that enough times, then I was likely going to find what I needed to find. And that's how it worked. And so I've tried to disprove that a gazillion times, as I said, and I just can't. It doesn't work, Now, it does work in other ways. I mean, you can marry somebody that's a royal diamond. You can buy a royal diamond. You can inherit a royal diamond distributorship. But truly, the game is to build one, because that's where the fun is. That's where the enjoyment is. So, without having any preparation on this, this topic is something that I believe you should explore, understand more of, and prepare for, because it's really going to hit in the fall. What's the way things are going, we're building up steam right now, and the problem is not going to get better quicker, it's going to get better slower. So more and more people are going to be affected. Now, if and again, here's what's really important to understand. You don't know who you're talking to. You don't know what their circumstances are, and you don't know what they're willing to do in order to get the job done. That's the most fascinating aspect of what we do, because it'll just blow your mind what will happen. And I'm going to tell you another story that I've never told before, and I think this is also very important. But I had a neighbor, and he was from Czechoslovakia, and it was I think Czech was one of those places that people had to escape from because there were wars in the early days. And he came to America, and he got a job with he became an entrepreneur. He built a business on audio equipment, and he then flew all over the world and supplied stadiums and arenas and all these facilities with all their audio equipment for their events, etc., etc. And he was a really nice guy, but from the standpoint of, he'd never had the ability to pass on what he knew to other people and figure it. So he was stuck. He was stuck doing all the work all the time. So there was never any downtime. One of the benefits of this business is you can have lots of downtime because you're sharing the opportunity and the workload with many other people. I didn't do everything to become successful. I had a team. I had a lot of people in my team that helped me become successful, and that was the benefit of the structure. So when he saw this opportunity, it was like a kid in a candy shop. He went nuts. He went goo goo gaga over this. He knew a gazillion people all over the world, and he was my last person to get me to Royal Diamond at that time. And what an exciting thing. He was my next door neighbor. Who knew? Who knew? Now we'd go out socializing and so on and so forth, and he had his thing, I had my thing. We talked about that, and then all of a sudden one thing came to the next, and here we are. We traveled, we went to resorts together, we all that kind of good stuff, and all of a sudden it went clickety click because I asked him a couple of questions. So here's the message. Success in this business is going to come about by your getting out there and talking to other people, finding out what's needed and or wanted, and then presenting that solution. Period. That's how it works. It doesn't work any other way. It's got nothing to do with magic. It's got nothing to do with, hocus pocus, whatever else you want. It's just a simple action of doing. And it's been in the, I mean, again, this has been this industry since they used shells, or they sold carpets or rugs or whatever, and it's been going on century after century after century. It's when you find out what other people want and you can provide that, then man, you're one step further. Now, one of the lessons I learned many years ago was, if you have a manufacturer that manufactures something that the public wants, stick yourself in the middle of that. So they have to go through you to get to the manufacturer. That was the idea. And then I said, oh my God. And then when I was introduced to network marketing and saw how that structure works, and 3 can get, 3 can get, 3 can get, and the numbers are astronomical, I said, oh my God. What a neat deal here. And then I would sit down with my pencil and a piece of paper and my calculator, and it's like the commercial with the guy on cryptocurrency. Says, I'm rich today, and I'm broke today. I'm rich today. So it was, I looked at the scenarios of potential. Well, that was motivational. What if? What if you could do this? What if you could do it? Well, the answer is really simple. So right now we're headed in a direction where a lot of people are going to be looking for an answer to their situation. So now's the time to get prepared. Now's the time to develop your story in this direction. Now's the time to have your plan ready so that you can provide people with the solution. And of course, my favorite line, and however you want to use this line, would you be interested in making an extra $5,000 a month? The reason why most people won't answer that question is they don't have the answer themselves. So practice, prepare. And that's the way to go. So what's inflation? Inflation is this ugly thing where prices rise, consumers spend less, the government has to reduce the amount of money to control the supply, and as a result, the economy will slow down, and that drops the prices because people buy less. And then that can take 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. In the meantime, who's suffering? It's individuals that don't have the wherewithal to keep up with it, or they lose their job or what have you. We already have people quitting, and I think the majority of those were baby boomers that just had enough, and so on and so forth. And the newest generations, they still have to do things. They're still out buying homes, buying cars, traveling the world, all that kind of good stuff, and they need a cash flow. And we have a great business to offer that opportunity as well. So there's many solutions that you can come up with. But the key is to ask the question and find out what others want. Now, I'll end off with this, and because this was a fun little project, but I used to do the traveling training show and put on seminars in weekends, and go to wherever and put on a seminar, and on the first night or the second night, it would be a Friday, Saturday, and then finish on Sunday. And on Saturday night, before the end of the class, I introduced the What Do You Do game. Now, the What Do You Do game was just a simple survey, and it was printed on a sheet, and it was specifically designed, and the questions were specific because you wanted a specific answer. But the object of the game was, and you introduced this, you said, I'm in this training class, and we've been given this game to play of who can get the most individual occupations, and the one that gets the most wins the prize. And I wanted to know if you'd like to help me. And the person on the other said, well, sure, I'll help you. And so you'd ask them, what's your occupation? And they'd say, well, I'm a truck driver. And they say, great. Then they had a clipboard and they had a sheet and it said name, occupation, phone number, signature. And then he said, okay, in order for this to count, I need you to fill this out for me. And you hand them the clipboard with that information. And it said name, occupation, phone number, signature. And then the object of that exercise was you hand them the sheet and you shut up. Well, okay. Now, I'd done surveys before. I'd used it before in business, and then used it in the movie industry and finding the endings of movies. That's where this particular aspect came from. So the next day, we would, the people were coming in, and everybody's chattering at the beginning of the class and whatever, and lots of smiles. And so we'd review what happened with the What Do You Do game. And this guy gets up and he says, this was absolutely incredible. And I said, well, how many did you get? And he said, well, I got 50. I said, you got 50? Yeah, got 50 names. He showed the sheet. He had 2 sheets filled out, 25 on each one. And he said, I actually got a distributor and I got 2 customers. And I said, wow, fantastic. So he won the prize. He got, at that time, it was the book and tape series. And what's the moral of the story? Well, what he did was he went to a gas station and he stood there with his clipboard. And anytime somebody came to get gas, he'd go over to him and say, I'm in this training class and we're doing this, we're having this contest to find out who does the most different occupations. And I wanted to know if you'd like to help me. Well, number 1, people like to help people. Number 1. People like to help people. Number 1. Number 2, it's a survey. They just have to answer questions. No big deal. Well, he got questions. Well, what kind of class are you taking? Wow, that sounds interesting. What do you do? What do you do? And again, what's the object of talking to somebody else is to get into a conversation about what you do. I mean, the favorite thing I liked when I was in traveling or going around to whatever, and people, I'd ask them, well, what do you do? Where are you going? Why is it? Was business, pleasure, what have you? And you get into a conversation, and then they'd ask me, what do you do, Dave? It's my license. My license to tell them everything I know. My license to tell them exactly what I do. My license to get them excited about what's going on. That was why that question was so important. So in that little exercise, people got over their fear, one, of talking to other people, but more importantly, they were in an environment that was not threatening to the other person, and conversations began. Now, this is one of those silly little things, but at the same time, it's a very important little thing. Considerations, what you think, are senior to actually what can happen. So in other words, if you think it's going to be tough, it's going to be tough. It may not be tough, but if you think it's going to be tough, it's going to be tough. If you think it's going to be scary, then that's what you think, and that's what's going to happen. It may not be scary, but that's what you think. So when people went out, at first, when I said this is what the rules of the game are, they were going, I got to do that? Can't do that. I said, just go do it. See what happens. And here was the bottom line. Those that played got wins and great results. Those that didn't. So what's the moral of that story? Well, the moral of that story is, as Captain Picard says, engage. Go to work. Be the boss, be the CEO, get out there, talk to people, find out what's important to them, present solutions, tell them what you do, get excited, be motivated, be prepared, all of that good stuff. That's what you got to do. So, yeah, we've been hampered by COVID a little bit, and we've been sitting at home and doing all those things. But now it's, California's a little different. We've got a no mask policy. It's great. There's still some places that you want to wear a mask, but you can still go out. Meetings are happening, gatherings are taking place. So we're getting back to normal. And social media is one way, but it's not the only way. It's a way, it's a method, but the bottom line is still going to be communication is going to be king or queen, as you say, and get the job done. So what's your job as the boss? Your job is to figure out what's going on, what are the problems, issues, challenges, and then solve them. That's your job. Now, you can be cause or you can be effect. Cause would be then looking for the solution. Effect would be agreeing with the problem. So that's how you have to look at this. So we're coming into an incredibly profitable time for us. Take advantage of it. Okay, we're going to end off here on the call and we'll go into a Q&A. Thanks for being on here today.